YouTube! Welcome to the Fantasy Football Perspective. I'm your host, Lucas, and this is my weekly series, Sleeper Starts, Sleeper Sits, going into Week 8 NFL season. I hope you all survived Week 7 NFL season by Mageddon. Man, because it kicked my ass. In one league, we only have 5 bench spots, and I had to make a decision. Do I drop one of these 5 players that I like, or do I just keep Darren Waller in my tight end spot because I was just out of solutions at this point. I didn't want to drop someone good. Then Darren Waller suddenly has an ankle injury. I rolled the dice, and it bit me in the ass. And rough week. But let's get on to this week. Bigger and better things are ahead. Before we get started, it's important to cover who's on a bye this week when you're making your lineups, and that is only the Raiders and the Ravens, so the player pool is higher, so we can select more players to sit and start based on projections. So, before I get into this isn't going to be your typical sleeper start, sleeper sits video. I have 2 sleeper starts that I really like, but for my sleeper sits, I think these 3 players are full onset. You are able to drop them. They are fully droppable at this point in season-long leagues based on previous performances, based on trends, and they are the ultimate sleeper sits so far this year because you can't trust these 3 players, and I'll get into that when we get into it. Like always, if I say anything during this video that helps you set your lineups, like the video, drop a comment below if you have any questions about your lineup, who you want to start, who I think you should sit, trade questions. The trade deadline in fantasy football is coming up. So drop all your questions below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. That's right. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Without further ado, let's hit that intro. Okay, so let's get into this video. Sleeper starts, sleeper sits, week 8 NFL. So, as always, we're going to start with our sleeper starts of the week. And I'm going to start off no other than Mr. Sam Darnold going against the Atlanta Falcons. Remember, this series is selecting those fringe starters. It's not obviously going to tell you to go sit someone that you wouldn't sit, like Aaron Jones or Austin Eckler, someone who might not have the ideal matchup. You're not going to sit those players. Those guys are matchup proof. I want to select players that you actually have to make a decision on. Let's start with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was awful last week, even to the point where he actually got benched. But the reason I like a Sam Darnold bounce back game is because of the matchup. The Falcons give up huge numbers to opposing quarterbacks. And they haven't played very good quarterbacks the last 3 matchups, so let's dig in to see how they did. Tua goes 32 for 40, 4 TDs and almost 300 yards. Yes, 2 interceptions, but that's damn near probably Tua's most efficient throwing game of his career. Then we move on. Against the Jets, Zach Wilson didn't look too good, 200 yards, 1 pick. 63.5. Pretty good performance. And, good job, Falcons. You stepped up. But then let's go to Taylor Heinicke. Taylor Heinicke, 23 for 33, almost 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, 127.1 rating. Looked great. So, the Falcons have played against 3 subpar quarterbacks. We'll say less than average quarterbacks at this point in their respective careers. And they've given up huge games to 2 of the 3. Here comes Sam Darnold with all his weapons. I just feel like it's time to get right for Sam Darnold. I think we're going to see something, in this top 4 games. 19 to, we'll say, 33 points is probably a pretty good projection. I think the over 19 is safe. Yes, obviously his leash is probably a little smaller at this point, since he got benched last time. But I think he's going to start coming back around and making better decisions. And it starts here with the Falcons. This is a dream matchup for a Sam Darnold bounce back game. I'm going to throw him into one of my lineups, and we'll see what happens. So Sam Darnold, first sleeper start of the week. My second sleeper start of the week is no other than Damian Harris going against the LA Chargers. Great last two games. He's only getting about 50% of the snaps. But the thing about Damian Harris is when he's in the game, he is getting the ball. 48% of the snaps and got 18 attempts is a pretty damn good indicator that he gets the ball once he's in the game. 14 carries on 46% of the snaps, repeats it. He's getting the goal line work, and he's going against a dream matchup against the Chargers, who in the last two games have given up 187 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns, and 230 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns to the Ravens and the Browns, respectively. So, Damian Harris continues his hot streak against the Chargers and looks good doing it. I like him to find the end zone once again. 4-game streak, potentially. Finding that end zone, I really like his chances. So, moving on to our sleeper sits of the week. And like I said in the intro, this isn't even sits. These are people that are not touching any of my lineups at this point of game in redraft, and they're damn near droppable in your gear draft leagues. And that's no other than Brandon Ayuk. You just can't trust him, man. The dude has only had, let's count my receptions. 1, 5, 8, 9 receptions on the whole entire year. Let's go back to last year. I just get curious because one game for Brandon Ayuk last year, he had 10 receptions. So far through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games, he hasn't even hit that mark. I don't know what he did to Kyle Shanahan. I actually think Kyle Shanahan's completely overrated. I'm not even going to lie. We talk him up like he's an offensive genius, but he has very, very suspect play calling, in my opinion. Let's just take last game, for example. The run with Eli Mitchell was working, and they just stops doing it. And I don't think he makes any sense with his play calling. He has a receiver in Brandon Ayuk on the edge who was putting up crazy numbers last year. 17, 23, 19, 20, 21 on a week-to-week basis. And this year just decides not to use them. It makes no sense. Debo Samuel's getting all the carries or all the catches at this point. Fine. I think Debo Samuel's a good receiver as well. But they have 2 studs, and whatever Brandon Ayuk did in the offseason or not did, he is in the doghouse and he's staying there. He's getting the snaps, but they're just not using him. All right. Brandon Ayuk, droppable in season-long leagues at this point. Second droppable player is no other than Robbie Anderson, kind of mimicking Brandon Ayuk. Let's go back to last year's numbers. He was having games of 9 catches, 8 catches, 7 catches, 8. Look at these targets. 13, 12, 11, 9, 12. Bring in a new QB, Sam Darnold. Yes, that was a little sketchy in my head, Sam Darnold coming in, but they played together, so it shouldn't matter. And targets just going down. Yes, he's getting some 9s, 11s, and 11s, but the dude is getting targets, hitting him in the hands and dropping them. He used to have some of the most sure hands as a receiver, but he's just lost his touch. So, Robbie Anderson, in my opinion, season-long league is droppable. I think there's better options at this point because you purely cannot trust him. Just can't trust him. Last but not least, droppable in season-long leagues, and I hate to say it, and it's Justin Fields. My man is just not producing at a high level. Offensive line sucks. No time. Receivers aren't getting open. Forcing the issue. Fumbles. He's not taking care of the ball. He had 5 turnovers last game alone. The season does not get any easier going against San Francisco, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Just game after game, pretty good front sevens. And it's like, throw in the towel for Justin Fields this year. I think he could be a great QB down the road. But, this shows you the difference between the pro game and the college game. At Ohio State, he had all the time in the world, could dissect the defense, and he produced at such a high level. You take away that time in the pocket, you raise the speed of the corners guarding these receivers. You have to make throws with anticipation and throw your guys open. It's completely different. And Justin Fields is not there yet, and he is completely droppable in season-long leagues at this time. So, those are my 2 sleeper starts, Damian Harris and Sam Darnold for the week, and my 3 sleeper sits. Hashtag droppable, Justin Fields, Robbie Anderson, and Brandon Ayuk. All droppable in my opinion. So, as always, if I have said anything during this to help you in any sort of way, like the video. I appreciate everyone who supports me during this, likes the video, drops a comment. You guys are the best. Remember, this is my perspective. I hope you all have a great night. Peace!